Welcome to Santos Brothers Eats.
Food worth mentioning. So let's dive right into this. Welcome back now to Santos Brothers Eats, where we're talking about food worth mentioning. I'm here with my brother, Chef Jeff Santos, and I'm, of course, his brother, Kenny Santos. And today we are here with another guest. And who is that guest, Jeff?
It is my beautiful wife, Diana. We've mentioned her many times before, but this is the first time she's been on. Say hello, Diana.
Hey, everyone, and thank you, Santos Brothers, for including me today.
Of course.
Yes. Welcome to the podcast. Your pictures have been in our Instagram, and we've talked about you before on previous podcasts, but we're glad that you could join us and the whole reason why you're joining us is because just yesterday, and this is recorded on the Labor Day weekend, so today's the Monday, we went to have some brunch together, didn't we, Jeff?
Yes, we did. And so one thing we haven't had since the lockdown as a family is dim sum. And after some research, we discovered that a few Chinese restaurants have opened up patios and they included dim sum on their menu. And we chose to go to Yang's Chinese Cuisine, which is at Highway 7 in Leslie, so just north Toronto. There's about 5 other restaurants that are doing patio setups for dim sum, but we chose Yang's because they were following some safety precautions. So that's what we chose. And so it was myself, Ken, Diana, our parents, my son, and Diana brought a special guest, and that was her mom, Brenda, who lives in Sudbury currently, but she was actually coming in from New Brunswick on the way back to Sudbury. So it was a good old family dim sum event.
Yes, her layover at the airport timed perfectly for brunch. She had a 5-hour layover, so it gave her a nice break instead of being stuck in the airport.
Great timing. And who would have thought,
right.
I'm sure she did not know that when she woke up that day that she'd be having dim sum.
No, she didn't.
Well, I think Diana just said, you're joining us for brunch, and she didn't really specify what we're having. Is that correct, Diana?
No, I did say dim sum, but yes.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
Well, good. That's good. So we, like Jeff said, we went to Yang's Chinese Cuisine. We got the idea because there's an article on Blog.to that we will link to in the show notes that showcase like 3 or 5 or different places that offer the patio dim sum. And we picked Yang's. What was our first impressions when we got there? And we're talking about ambiance and safety precautions.
Well, when we got there, I knew you guys, Ken and our parents got seated first, but when Dylan and I arrived, I did like how I did see a bottle of sanitizer right by the entrance. The staff were all wearing masks, and the people that were in line in front of us, they were spaced out. For ambiance, I did like how they brought out the nice chairs, or at least chair coverings, the typical white plastic tablecloth. And what I found sort of cutish was that they were serving us tea in the white China teapots, but we were drinking out of paper cups. But I guess this time during the COVID, they want to limit the amount of human contact with their plates as much as they can.
Yeah. And so, of course, it's something that you notice, but not something that you necessarily mind.
No.
So, yeah. And as far as the spacing went, we were outside, very important to us. If there was only an inside option, we would not have gone. That's just how we are, at least at this moment. And then the tables were really nicely spaced apart. So that was important. What were your thoughts, Diana?
And I think it's important to note that it wasn't just our first dim sum as a family. This is our first time eating out as a family since the lockdown. And definitely we're taking the precautions very seriously. So a lot of thought and research went into this. When we drove up, because I picked up my mom from the airport, it was a nice setting. They had patios on each side of the entrance. There were the tables with the umbrellas over them. It was a cool morning, so it was fine without an umbrella, but it was just a nice little touch. There was a bit of a lineup to get in, which is good, and everyone was keeping their space, as well as everyone had on masks. So in Toronto, it's mandatory that if you're going indoors that you need to wear a mask. So people in line had their masks on, and then once you get seated at the table, you're able to remove them. So they were doing that for the patio as well. And everything felt nice and safe and comfortable to enjoy a really yummy brunch.
Yeah, and it was a great morning, and
Hmm.
this kind of goes without saying, and but every single employee had a mask on there,
Yes.
so
Yes. Yeah.
that's important. Even though we were outside, of course, everyone had masks except for the eating part. We had to take those out, but we were outside. I felt okay with that. And so we had a pretty big spread, actually.
Yeah.
If I had known, we would probably would have ordered less food, actually.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would have.
But Jeff, did you end up bringing the menu home, or
I did, and
okay?
so
So you knew what we ate. So
yeah. So this is what we had. We had the steamed shumai, which is ground pork with minced shrimp in the middle, topped with roe. We had steamed shumai, beef style though. So we had pork shumai and beef shumai. We had the steamed glutinous rice with dried scallop, which is wrapped in lotus leaves. That's one of our mother's favorite dishes to have. The traditional barbecue pork buns. And then we had one of our favorites, the rice rolls, barbecue pork, shrimp, but they also had ones with the scallops.
Mm-hmm.
And on top, Ken, why don't you describe what was on top of the scallop rice roll?
So on top, there was like this, I guess Jeff called it earlier, he called it fermented fish, but it tasted a lot like Filipino bagoong, which is like a shrimp paste. It's like a concentrated salty fish. And I want you to think it's kind of like, like when anchovies are on like a Caesar salad, like it's that punch of salt. Hadn't seen that before on those rice rolls. Now those rice rolls, if you look for them on a Chinese menu, they're called, I think it's called chang fan.
Yes.
Yeah, it's chang fan.
Yeah.
And then the shomai, those are the pork dumplings. You know what we didn't order, and I don't even remember seeing, was hargao. Did you?
Yeah,
see
I'm looking at the menu now, and I don't see it. They do have some of the special menu items, but none of them I don't think are hargao. In fact,
I
but
didn't even think of it yesterday. Wow.
But not that it was a miss, because the portions were very generous. Yeah, because from when we look at the pictures, they were at least 1.5 times the size of the normal portions that we get.
Absolutely. So you're going to see the pictures on our Instagram feed, and there's another restaurant that we go to on the regular, which is called Perfect Chinese. That's in Scarborough, and we love Perfect, but this place, the portion sizes were much, much larger. We were saying earlier that the dumplings were 50% bigger. I wouldn't be super surprised if they were twice as big, actually. So
yeah,
I mean, just big and tastier. I will say this, is that as great as the food was, for some reason I do love the shomai over at Perfect more, but this shomai here was perfectly acceptable.
Yeah,
and certainly above average. So
yeah. And what were your thoughts, Diana?
I was really impressed with the dim sum, everything that we ordered from here. I think part of it is we've had dim sum a couple times through takeout, and it's not quite the same by the time you get it home, and even if you have to reheat it. The portions were, as you said, guys, really large portions, and I found everything was just so incredibly fresh. It was delicious. I absolutely loved it.
Nice.
So let's comment here a little bit on the fresh, because it was fresh. Like, Jeff, would you know, like, how often is dim sum made on site versus frozen?
If I'm correct,
guessing,
if I'm a dim sum expert, but I believe most of the bigger restaurants like this one and Perfect, they would make everything fresh on site, and then they would freeze it, just so they make sure that they're always producing some sort of dim sum, and then they would freeze it, and then they would just sort of reheat it in the steamer. But for me, because of the size of these dim sums, I'm going to say that they are making everything fresh on site.
You know what? It didn't take long for the food to come out by any.
No.
It didn't take long, but it was longer. So that does make us think that, perhaps it was made right then.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and and we're going to say this a lot. Definitely, these portion sizes were much larger than we're expecting. I mean, just
that's it. We actually ordered 3 times, 3 portions of each, and we should have only ordered 2. Because I'll post the menu on Instagram. There's some stuff that we should have ordered, that we wanted to order, but because we're just too full at the time, we didn't have a chance. So we may go back and just get these special items.
Ooh,
yeah, I'm definitely the one that I wanted that we just didn't have room for and want to go back for is the steamed rice roll with the Perigord black truffle and a Birko pork.
Yeah, I wanted to try that. Actually, what were the ones that we were going to have the second round, but we were just so full.
There was, okay, go ahead, Jeff.
No, you go ahead.
Diana,
menu
go
there.
ahead. If you have the menu,
Yeah, I do. I have the menu too. So we were going to do the pan-fried bun with the minced pork and crab meat. The honey beef short ribs, which we didn't order.
Oh, yeah.
The steamed shrimp and foie gras dumpling.
That's the one I wanted. The foie gras. My
yeah,
foie gras all around.
There we go. And we didn't have any squid tentacles this time. The deep fried golden squid tentacles were the ones that we were hoping to get to on a second round, but just too full.
Yes, we were.
Oh yeah. So definitely a reason to go back. And everything I had, at least until dessert, was something that I enjoyed. We're going to talk about dessert a little bit later on.
Yes.
I wanted to say the pork buns, while they were good, those weren't necessarily larger, I don't think.
No, I think
buns.
They were fresh though. I found the pork and the sauce inside though was really good compared to just some of the other ones that we've had.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and because we have been having dim sum kind of like to go, it's so much better when you get to eat it there and it's fresh, because you know how like when you bring it home and they're all stuck together. I hate that.
Yeah.
I hate that, but that wasn't a problem this time. There was nice separate. It was just wonderful. And so the shumai was good. Now, were there two types of beef or only one type of beef that we had?
As in the beef balls, you mean?
Yeah, in terms of the dumplings.
As far as I know, we just had the one type of beef.
Okay, because there was just a lot of them. That's why maybe I thought there were two types.
There was, yeah.
Okay.
There was a lot of food yesterday. That is for sure.
And the different rolls, we had the shrimp. You mentioned the shrimp.
The barbecue pork, and the one with the scallop. And what I found interesting about their rice rolls or chow fen was they actually had vegetables inside. Traditionally, when you order rice rolls, if you order the barbecue pork, it's just barbecue pork. If you order shrimp, it's just shrimp. But these actually had shrimp and or barbecue pork, and there was some Chinese greens on top of it. So made a nice color combination and a bit of a different flavor as well.
And texture. And the texture. So it was good. Yeah, and like I was just thinking, I can't remember where we went. We did go with our parents to another dim sum place that was kind of like inside of a mall. Do you remember that?
Fisherman's, I believe it is.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
Their particular, I remember their cheng fun was they had the same size rolls as Perfect, but there's only two of them, and I was like, that's a small portion.
Yeah.
But I mean, when you compare Perfect to Yang's, I mean, Yang's is so much bigger. But then Yang's to Fisher's it's like at least twice as big. And I'm not exaggerating there. Like at least twice as big.
Exactly right.
This place, we had a lot of food. And of course, we're not going to let any of that go to waste. So of course we, Dylan, Jeff and I, we stepped up. And actually my dad as well. We stepped up and made sure there was no food wasted.
That's right.
And we even ordered dessert, didn't we?
Yes, we did. And for dessert, we had so one of Diana's favorite dessert items in dim sum is the sesame balls. Sorry, the rice balls. And usually they're deep fried with black sesame or something else in the middle. And the ones they had, pardon me? Oh, lotus?
The lotus paste. Isn't it lotus paste?
I believe so.
Sometimes there's red bean paste in there. It's just, I guess it's kind of like the Chinese version of like a Timbit that's like jelly filled, but it's not jelly.
Yeah, and that's my favorite is the one with the lotus in the inside. It's a bit sweeter than the red bean one. So the deep fried sesame balls with the lotus inside. But what they had, Jeff, go ahead.
It was the black sesame glutinous rice balls. So they weren't deep fried, and the rice is then glutinous. So they're more of a softer texture. Than what we were expecting. They weren't deep fried; they were just steamed, and it was a glutinous rice ball.
And the black sesame.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Kenny.
I was going to say it's just a different dish than we were expecting.
Yeah,
not that it was bad or anything. It was just a different. thing. That's all. This is a mix-up.
And the black sesame almost looked like squid ink. It was funny because the inside of it, and I did find it a bit strong, so I did scrape a bit of the black sesame out and just had the taste of it with the glutinous rice ball is fine with the sesame on it. I love that. It was just I found the black sesame paste inside a little strong for me.
That's right.
Yes. I remember teasing you and your mother that it was squid ink. I remember
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
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 And then we also had mango pudding, which was very cute because they actually made the mango pudding in a fish mold. So when they inverted it on the plate, it looked like a goldfish or a koi
Koi.
fish,
Yeah.
possibly.
And you'll see those on
Uh,
the Instagram feed. Like on our
yeah.
Instagram feed, when Jeff posts that, you're going to see that. Looks great presentation on that mango
Oh yeah.
pudding.
And they served
Jeff,
it with what I thought was a cream, but it was just basically evaporated milk, maybe a bit watered down. And when I had it, I said to Dylan, I said, you know what, this almost tastes better without the evaporated milk on it. You know,
Yeah,
just
they had
the
condensed milk that would have been
Oh yeah.
sweeter, better.
and I didn't even have any of that because I was very full. I didn't have any of that mango pudding. You kind of made a face. Like, what would you rate that mango pudding, Jeff? Like, it sounded like you didn't like it.
It didn't really have a good mango. Well, not good, but it didn't have a good mango taste to it. So maybe 4 out of 10.
Wow, that's low.
But like we always say, like Asian desserts are usually not as sweet as North American palates are used to. Maybe that's why. That's what they're used to that.
You know, it's funny because some places, and I wouldn't expect it at a place called Yang or a place like Yang's because that place is so elegant, so high end. And sometimes when you get mango pudding, it's just like sweet and it doesn't taste like mango. It's just orange and sweet.
True.
And I would expect a place like that to actually taste like mango, you know?
True.
And so, yeah, it was Laura, and you kind of made a face, like kind of like, like, you know.
Yeah, I was expecting more.
Yeah, I got you.
And I was like, oh, that's it. Oh well.
So I didn't even have that, and I didn't try. Now that I think about it, I didn't try that other dessert either, the sesame ball or the it's rice ball. I didn't try that either. So I only had one thing for dessert. So,
yes.
Yeah.
And that was Malaysian durian pastry. Yes, I said durian. And we've talked about durian before, but Ken, if you want to describe it to our audience again.
You know what? Now, durian it's an Asian fruit. I think they're pretty big. They're the size of like footballs.
They're huge. Yeah.
Oh, they're massive. So bigger than footballs. I think of like big old watermelons.
Yeah.
And when you open them up, they're nice, beautiful yellow inside and bright, but they have a very distinctive odor.
Yeah.
Some people have described that odor as like, well, that's what death smells like. That's what dirty diapers smell like. And it was, I think it was Diana that mentioned earlier on, but told us that they cleared out a university in Australia because someone left it in the room or a locker over the weekend, and they thought it was some sort of toxic fumes. And this is like in the news. This is not like something I'm making up. This is something that actually happened. So, but I've heard that's very tasty. It smells bad, but it's very tasty. And I've heard this for years, but I've never had a chance to try it until yesterday.
Right. Well, we've had the durian candy, which of course most candies aren't really the pure vegetable fruit that they are. So just a taste of it, and that wasn't the most best tasting candy. But yes, we did taste it, myself, Dylan, and Ken. What was funny actually is that when it came to the table, I smelt it. I was like, oh, not too bad. But Brenda, Diana's mom, I guess she has a very sensitive nose, and she was like, wow, she really couldn't stand the smell of durian. And this was before I actually opened it up.
I don't think she's ever smelt durian before, though, and she hasn't had the pleasure of being at any of the night markets with us with the stinky tofu. I think for my mom, especially from Northern Ontario, they're getting better up there with having different ethnicities and different foods. But yeah, between the sensitive nose and just not really knowing what to expect, yes, I think she found it quite powerful, overwhelmingly stinky.
Yeah, and then when I actually opened one up, the smell did intensify a bit, and then we tried it. We won't go much into it right now. I'm going to post a video on our YouTube channel, and you can see the reaction that actually the whole table had with the durian pastry.
Yeah, and so inside, like, how do you think they prepared that, Jeff? Was it just kind of like made a jam out of it or something, or? Well,
more like a puree. So if I had to guess, I took the durian. They pureed it, added some cream, no sugar, and just that's what they did. And they engulfed it in the pastry and baked it off. Yeah, something like that. If I really had to guess how they made it.
Well, I mean, it looked great. Like the pastry
It
looked like
did.
something you'd want to have,
Oh,
but
yeah.
yeah. But it certainly doesn't smell like anything that you'd ever want to eat.
No.
But we did try it. And what was funny is there was some left over. And so my mother wanted it.
Yes.
And I remember I was driving her home, but for some reason she was in the car and I had to do something outside the car for like a minute or two. And when I came back in, I could really smell it in the car. So even though it was like in a little bag or whatever it was in,
Yeah.
it's still
So have you opened the windows since you got home? Like let the car air out?
no, there's no need to do that.
Okay.
Or maybe not, because you know how like you kind of get nose blind. I think you kind of forget what it smells like. Maybe I should have had the windows cracked a little bit.
Yeah, you should at least.
Yeah.
Yeah. So before we end, I must also say that the staff at Yang's were very nice. Were very attentive to us.
Mm-hmm.
If you need anything, like Diana likes a little red wine vinegar or red Chinese vinegar with your meal. Like, we found at some restaurants, when we asked for red Chinese vinegar, they look at us funny, or they say, no, we don't have it. But Yang's, they had mustard and hot sauce for my dad, some extra water, napkins, forks. They were very attentive to us.
They were.
That's
was
one
great.
that.
And the red wine vinegar for me is I tend to be a little bit gluten sensitive. So, of course, all the sauces, which I love and are incredible, have high gluten and even high sodium. So it's nice to just have a bit of a balance with that. And I remember even when we were at, I think it was the Fisherman's Restaurant, we asked for it and they didn't understand. They brought me a Coke. And so then we actually looked it up in Chinese or Mandarin and showed them what it was. And then they're like, no, we don't have it. So it was, it was funny.
Yeah.
I wanted to ask you, Diana, specifically, because I never went inside. You went inside because you had to use the restroom. What was was it like in there, both not only in ambiance, but also in safety as well?
So going in, we put our masks on because obviously we're going inside. And it was, the inside is quite large. I didn't notice if the tables were spaced out any more than normal. Honestly, it didn't look like it was. I think there was about 5 different groups inside, and what I found was funny was like there was 4 closer on one side and kind of 1 on the other. So again, it could have been that there was other people that were there and left, and it made the spacing look funny. So they seemed to be a little bit closer inside. The washrooms are okay. They honestly could have been a little bit cleaner. There was just like water on the floor and stuff like that. But what I did find a little weird was, so at the entrance going into the restaurant, where the staff's walking in and out, they had on either side, they had 2 small tables of 2. And both tables were occupied. And I personally, there's no way I would have sat there with all the traffic going back and forth. It's just increasing your risk of exposure. So that was the only thing that I was a little bit, I raised my eyebrows at. But overall, they're running a really wonderful operation there, and no concerns.
Oh yeah, well it's good. I forgot to even ask you yesterday what it was like in there, so I'm glad that I got to ask you this time. And so Yang's, it's connected to a banquet hall, right, Jeff? I mean,
I think it's called the Park Banquet Hall.
Okay,
and I think that's why some of their serving plates and dishes are more elegant than we've seen in other places, because they're sort of used to more refined service.
Yeah.
And Diana, you were mentioning about, you mentioned before as we were talking, that you found that their rating was a bit lower than what we think there is.
I do a lot of research on these things. So I pulled up 2 different ratings or looked at the ratings for them. And one was a 3.5 and one was a 3.7 out of 5. And I was a little bit hesitant based on that, but because of the patio, we decided to go for it. And I'm not sure why they were rated so low. I would definitely give them much higher. I'd give them like a 4.5 out of 5.
Nice.
And some of those food items, even a 5 out of 5 was really good.
Wow.
So, it could be previous experiences, but for right now, definitely rate them higher personally.
I absolutely agree. Like I would give them a 4.5 out of 5.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. I would definitely give them that. And, I was saying to these two earlier that I wonder if the lower rating is the location. Not that it's in to go to, but dim sum in Richmond Hill, there's some high quality places around there.
Yeah.
And
yeah, that's true.
We just simply don't eat there. We eat at places like Perfect in Scarborough and other places. And then lately we've had like takeout. And so it's easy to beat takeout,
Yeah.
So, compared to where we're used to going, this is definitely very, very good. And I I can't really imagine getting too much better without getting very, very expensive.
Oh, true. Yeah.
And I'm
the one thing go ahead, Diana.
Sorry, I was just looking. I went back on Google just to see the most recent reviews to see if like there may have been an issue before. They might have had a management change, whatever. But these were 5 days ago, 2 days ago, 2 weeks ago, and they were all 4 out of 5. So it's definitely
gone up a bit.
Maybe they've stepped it up since the COVID, or who knows.
That's it.
Yeah. But those are ratings that they deserve. I like those ratings, the 4s, 4s and above.
And like we were saying before, like this is fresh dim sum, and Diana doesn't really like to wake up very early in the morning, so I'm quote unquote allowed some at least 2 early morning dim sums with her, and this was one of them. And luckily it was on a patio, and we were especially enjoyed that Dylan and Brenda, Diana's mom, joined us for this one.
Excellent. And so that was this week's Food Worth Mentioning, and we're looking forward to our next episode where we talk about even more food worth mentioning.
That's right. I'd like to thank Diana for joining us for this one. Did you have a good time, Diana?
I did. Thanks so much for, I love being in the background and taking all the pictures for you guys and being part of this, but thanks so much for inviting me to be on the podcast as well, especially because it's a holiday Monday and I'm still in my pajamas. So I like podcasts.
Aren't we all? All right. And so until next time, remember this quote from Julia Child: people who love to eat are always the best people.
And that, of course, includes my brother, Chef Jeff Santos, and I'm his brother, Kenny Santos, and a special guest, Diana. And you as well, if you love to eat food worth mentioning. Thanks a lot, everyone.
All right. Take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to Santos Brothers Eat.
Food worth mentioning.